Loud. And it was official. We are recording. I'm Jason Truding. This is the Brooklyn Bound podcast. We've just let it be known that podcasts really should just be audio, but this is a video event. Thank you for watching this video event. This podcast is leading up to our show on Thursday. What's the date? June 17th. 7 p.m. Facebook, though I'm scared of Facebook, so I don't go there. YouTube, I go there to watch these shows. If you all want to join me there, we get together in the chat and experience music together. And I'm very pumped to have this trio, brand new trio, premiere, first debut concert, debut project, all the things. Bora Yoon is in my top right. She is an old Brooklyn Bounder. Is that the right? That sounded like she is a Brooklyn Bounder who's been on the show before, been on the pod before. You've done the thing, old hat. Martiza Garibay, and you can see your name there. And sitting next to you is Richey. And you all are newer to the Brooklyn Bound scene. Welcome, everybody.
We're fresh.
Thank you.
Yeah. Fresh. We are fresh off the. We're ready. Okay. So I told you, I asked basically the same 5 questions of everyone, but the first one's not going to work, I realized, because the first one is like, before I press record, we were talking about our little selves, little Martiza, little Austin, little Bora, and how you came to music. But maybe we can do that one, just knowing that there's 3 of you. Like, I know you all in very different ways. Bora, I've known you longest, but I don't know your story. Like, what brought you to love music? What's your in?
Oh gosh.
You can go back to Little Bora or Medium Bora.
Going right there, deep there.
I know.
I love it. Honestly, I remember Little Bora's best friend was the piano, and it was her only friend. And I would come home from family vacations and like literally run to it and be so happy and hug it and just spend a lot of time there because it was my friend that knew me the best. And yeah, I've actually always thought music knew me better than like any other kind of verbal or human interaction. And I've always felt that even as a child. Yeah, honestly, I would like nap under the piano. It was like the safest place to be. I was like, and even in like college, I'd be like, yeah, napping under the grand piano practice room sounds great, actually.
My place. Like, and what were you playing on the piano when you were like first loving it? Or it was loving you?
Honestly, I would actually play what my sister played at the lesson would be done. The piano teacher would leave, and I guess I would play what I heard, is what my mom says. And
awesome.
But I would just improv, or I remember just kind of like I don't know. I just remember kind of finding my way around even as before I knew what things were. And that's, yeah, I think that's probably my first, my first friend and my first language, I guess, that I so yeah, and honestly, it's always been, I think music is one of the only places where you can put a lot of difficult emotions that the rest of society normally tries to like sanitize or shove away or whatever. And yeah, I remember always feeling that as a kid, of being like, when I didn't know how to talk to humans, I always had my piano, or I always had music to go to. And that's why I'm always here for music.
I love that,
because music's always been there for me.
That's so good. But so I know you, and if you were to introduce yourself to someone, I don't know how you introduce yourself in terms of a music maker. You're a composer, a vocalist, sound artist, make things with objects. You're where did you go from the piano into that world, and what is that world? I didn't do it justice. I didn't introduce you in a good way.
No, it's I describe kind of as that kind of three composer, vocalist, and sound artist. I guess kind of encapsulates the wider aesthetic. But I'm sorry, what was the
But so you, I mean, I kind of imagine I can see you playing the piano as a little Bora, discovering the piano, becoming best friends with the piano. And then what was your, or were you always like loving the piano but also loving all the sounds around you and also loving your voice, and or was there a change?
My junior high choral director is really like she's one of my best, like she's like my second mom, Mrs. Young. I
Mm,
still like get lunch with her when I'm home. I adore her to pieces. um,
awesome.
she actually picked out and kind of fostered that she's like, I think she's like, sing a C, Bora. And I was like, and she's like, I think you have perfect. She's like, and she would test me every week or day, you know, and she's like, I think you have perfect pitch. And
Mm,
honestly, it started from just like figuring out what that was and then just like then listening to the world and being like, oh, let's hum with the radiator that's in
mm,
B, or like let's hum with the microwave that's in, you know, has a cool like fifth thing going on.
mm.
And so I, yeah, it really was just like honestly just tuning in with perfect pitch to anything and everything that made a sound, had a pitch, had a frequency. And that's, yeah,
Mm.
humming to things became
Yeah.
my other way of making friends. um,
Okay, Bora. No, I got nothing here. Got nothing. I was gonna. I know this. You find something everywhere. It's true. You find. It's so great. It's so great.
but that's the autism portal that became like music sound.
Amazing. Oh, that's so good. This is going to be not long enough to hear all three of your amazing stories about how you came to be. Though we're going to do it though anyway. No, there's so much to ask about this, Bora. But I
And
love seeing the three of you sitting here because I know you're kindred in many ways, but you do different things. On my screen, Austin, you're next. I know you. We're newer friends. We met kind of a year ago.
Yeah.
Um, in this way.
In this way,
We're
yeah.
still friends that we need to meet in the 3D space.
Right.
I cannot wait for that moment. I know you first as a percussionist, but then I've learned that you do so many wonderful things, including video things and things with objects and electronics and all the things. So what was your, how did you discover your love of sound and music?
I guess I was that sort of tried and true story of the little kid playing pots, you know, banging on stuff. But fortunately, my parents were supportive, and they got me a drum set when I was really, really young. And
Oh,
you know, I was listening to songs and translating them to rhythms, and that just kind of took me on a career in classical, jazz, klezmer, like lots of different musical genres. So I've
mm,
just been kind of a musical omnivore ever since I was a little kid. But the kind of shift into like producing electronic music or doing the more synthesist approach to music,
mm,
that's pretty new. I would say over the last just couple years. But the pandemic forced us inside and kind of allowed us to create some new hobbies.
mm.
So Martiza and I have been building instruments over the last year. We're pretty much self-taught, I would say.
Very much. There's been a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Yay!
A lot of things blowing up, a lot of things frying. We haven't electrocuted ourselves yet. So
It's great. We just started watching Back to the Future here, showing my kids Back to the Future. That's been like a big moment, and I love. There's just so many things frying. So I'm just imagining you're if you are in your apartment or house right now, it all looks very together. But I'm imagining if you were to turn the camera, maybe things are exploding in the corner.
There are some places that are exploding.
yeah, the dungeon workshop definitely is a little overwhelming, but it's organized chaos. I
Love
know
it.
what these are, you know.
I asked
Yeah.
what stuff is. Yeah.
Actually, we kind of had a realization where the flux capacitor in Back to the Future,
Yeah.
an amalgam of like flux, the stuff that you use to solder, and the capacitor part.
Oh.
It's kind of jargon, but we're
Yeah.
like, now we know what the jargon means.
Yeah, we literally watched Back to the Future like this winter and we're like, the flux capacitor.
Wait a minute.
That doesn't make sense.
And it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so on the outside. I need to learn about these. I mean, I know flux capacitor, but only from Back to the Future, not anything that those words would actually mean. I love that. It's a fun and funny movie to rewatch as a big kid.
Yeah, but it's been nice like delving into electronics, and we know a lot of people who build instruments or do sound art or do noise, and approaching it from a pretty heavily influenced like classical music background and thinking about arrangements, thinking about compositions definitely breathes some new life into it. So it's nice to build instruments that can inspire you, but also you can kind of put yourself into.
Amazing. Yeah, Marita, we I've also just met you in this space. I'm waiting for 3D Marita. But I've known you first. I've heard you playing violin. I know you in that way. And then I remember this wonderful moment at our collaborative workshop in January, where I think a group was working off of some prompts that Bora had given many of the students. And all of a sudden there were the crazy instruments on the screen that I had never knew existed. And I never knew you in that way. And that was so awesome and exciting. So what you gave me a very vivid Maritza on Maids of the Mist, young Maritza. Were you a musician then?
Yes, I
Yeah.
was. Yeah. So I guess I didn't come to know myself as that weird synth machine musician until kind of recently, but I begged my parents for a keyboard when I was 5, I think 4 or 5. And for Christmas, my parents got me a keyboard. And there's a wonderful photo of me and my gigantic glasses and big teeth, like this over a little keyboard, just totally tripping out. And I would just listen to stuff on the radio. I grew up in a very musical household. My mom used to run a dance troupe in Detroit, and they would do like Puerto Rican and like style dances and like flamenco and stuff. And my dad is really into percussion, and he loves playing the claves and the maracas, and
he's a great harmonica player too.
Congas. He's a great harmonica player, and there was always music in the house, and so I would hear melodies and play them back on the piano. And at some point when I was 6 years old, I suddenly became extremely frustrated with the piano, and I saw that they were offering orchestra at school, and I was allowed to play the violin because it was small enough for me to carry around. And that's how I started playing. And I played, through my school program. I got into college on a school rental instrument, and I was a classical musician. Have always been a classical musician. I dabbled in conducting for a while. And as soon as the pandemic hit, I had kind of like a personal crisis because, day by day, you see these orchestras kind of falling off and going bankrupt. And I was like, oh my God, what am I trying to do? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to me? And then we started like making our own instruments and just kind of like cracking that nut and finding that what was inside was like something that I guess feels more to me than like Beethoven ever did. It just like totally blew me away.
Love it. So this is really this object that maybe we'll start to talk about at some moment, these instruments you make, that's like that's a this year thing. How exciting. Yay. I mean, in some ways the world sucks, but in some ways it's like a gift that like so many of you all, and I think me in a different way too, right, this year is, I don't know, brought a change of thinking that can also be in so many ways, but musically as well, like these discoveries, that's so cool. So you guys are such a new trio, meaning this is the first thing you guys have ever done together, right? So usually my next question would be like, so what's the history of the trio and what are y'all, but this is like, so the history of the trio is, tell me if this is right. I mean, you all kind of meet in January?
Yeah, the collaborative.
Yeah.
It's all your fault, So Percussion. It's awesome.
So happy.
Yeah, the So Collaborative Workshop brought us all together. And then I saw the resulting show of all the beautiful pieces and like wildly inventive and imaginative and such synergistic creativity. Like, my God. And I saw their film of these beautiful tabletop instruments and pastel knobs and just very particular aesthetic. And then these little wool sponges started to come out and like woggle around and make noises, and I was like, wait, hold up.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, these people talk my like squeaky hedgehog language, and I actually hear melodies in this, and like we should
Yeah.
really talk.
Awesome. Awesome. And so then you tell me about
So
it. So you reached out. You're like, we need to figure something out.
yeah, so we became friends on socials after that concert, and just like exchanging, just like I just was like expressed my utter admiration and like of their beautiful instruments and just these soundscapes they were making, and just like floated the idea. We had talked about like, let's make music together at some point, and you know that kind of sits in the air sometime for a little bit, and then this invitation to play at Brooklyn Bound came up, and I was kind of tumbling around in lots of different weird circumstances, and I'm like, I don't know, blah. I think I'm down for the count. And then, you know, it's just takes the perfect storm of things. Then I was like, look at we were in contact with some, I think on Instagram or somehow, and I was just like, wait, like why can't we just, that's great. Like why, this should be like the perfect thing to just try this. This is great, you know? And so here we are.
That's amazing. I think I like intuited some of this story, but I'm not sure I knew. I feel very psyched, very proud, and very like so like exuberant. And like, but even just for Brooklyn Bound, I love like, Brooklyn Bound for us is something it used to be, as Bora knows, we'd gather in our studio in Brooklyn, and there'd be like, 20, 30, 35 people crammed in to check something out. And it was like people showing new things that they were working on. And in this space, it's been awesome to be able to show things that, people don't have to be in Brooklyn or don't have to be together. But also in some ways it's still been very experimental, but also you can show finished things also. Sometimes finished things get shown. And not that what you're showing is not finished, but I love that it's the beginnings of something. I'm so pumped about that. Martiza and Austin, does this check out? Does Bora's story check out? This is pretty much the way it went down.
Yeah. And Austin was like elbow deep in dishes in the kitchen, and I was in the other room. And Bora sent me a message on Instagram because we've been in contact on social, but it would be like, I'd respond like, fire flames to like her story. Like, this is so cool.
We're talking about pizza.
Or talking about French style pizza. Get that corner slice. And so
nice. Okay.
Me a message on Instagram, and I like ran into the kitchen, and I was totally just freaking out. It's like, Austin, you'll never believe what just happened. And I
love it so much.
Yesterday when we were FaceTiming, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I totally fangirl freaked out when you sent the message, because I was just so psyched. Like knowing like, like what you create, the sounds that you create, and like the sonic spaces that you create, I was like, oh my God, like this is gonna be awesome. Like this is gonna be, and it feels like easy, it feels like an easy collaboration, and like we communicate really well, and like, I don't know, it just feels good, and it's super fun, and
love it. I love the fangirl fanboy side of it. It's totally true. Bora is a superstar, and it's also funny, Bora, for me and maybe you too, it just comes with age, right? That like, you're a superstar. It's like so many people know the awesome shit you do. It's like that's really exciting. I love it. That's part of it.
It just felt like I already knew you guys in some weird way too, just because I guess we'd been following each other, and I'm just like, I love everything they're doing. I love everything they're making. I don't know, just like, it's always just been like, yeah, just keep going. Yeah. And then I'm like, why don't we just make something? And then I was like, 10 minutes. We could totally do 10 minutes.
10
or
minutes.
like,
so what are you making? So tell us what you're making. What's the...
And so I was in Honolulu at the time, and we had this Zoom call where we just kind of like put our brains together, and we're just like, I don't know, this is a really weird time, and it's pandemic time, and it's at the same time like, but we have the ability to bring our studios to each other, and like this like intimate tabletop world of objects, and like how we make sound with them, and like I could already tell they spoke the same language in terms of like object created, like just everything, soundscape, gesture, ritual, like all of these aspects were there. And I'm like, okay, let's just like go deep. Like I feel like we already see like have the scope of what kind of instrumentation is there. And so we put our heads together of like what the game plan could be of like, let's make, and we just kind of came up with like the analogy of the kitchen. We're like, why don't we just start with different sauces? They're like, you guys want to just make a bunch of different like little germinations of beginnings of sauces and then like just throw them at me. I'll lay some shit down and throw it back, and we'll
Awesome.
just like kind of see, yeah, like and because I respond to just different worlds, and I was like, how about, yeah, like, just have fun and like lay down a few sound worlds, and just think of it as like, let's just, yeah, let's just put down as many different like flavors or sauces down, and see where we go from there. And I got this beautiful, enormous, dense, wonderful ocean of sound for my birthday essentially, and I was like, whoa. It was kind of one of those where it's like, wait till later to really open this. This is the real one. I was like, whoa. Yeah, I was like, this is gonna be great. Hold on. And then when I really got home and opened all the tracks, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, we have like albums and oceans of things. So I'm kind of like, okay, this Brooklyn Bound thing is just gonna clearly be like the glacier tip.
Yeah. That's so exciting though.
I was like, we gotta zero it on 10 minutes somewhere. Yeah. But like, I'm really excited that we have this like wealth of sonic material.
So like, how for you, Bora, I know being in the room with you, I know some of the things we've gotten to do together, or ideas you'd bring in for or ideas where This Is How We Fly, I think you had or tap dancer ideas. Maybe it wasn't This Is How We Fly. You brought in I know being in the room with you and what you're like to make music with in a room together, and how much is this collaboration, not this collaboration, but the way you collaborated of sending sounds back and forth, how much of that is something that happened 2 years ago and 3 years ago and 5 years ago for you also, and how much of that is well, we're thinking about how to make music and we can't be in the same room, so we're gonna think differently about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How is it different than being in a room? Or
no, I guess like, did you collaborate like this pre-pandemic, or has this been a in this moment type of collaboration?
No, this has been very unique to, I guess, like one other instance was like sending mix notes back and forth with Ben Frost in Iceland, like after tracking or something, but honestly, like this has been very entirely new of just like, let's just start, and kind of like the other project was very like limited in its scope, and actually this is too, and that's kind of the perfect rubric to start something, I think, is like has the promise for a lot, but at the same time the like immediate deliverable is like something just to like, let's just go for this one little it's a starter, and it's been really amazing working in this kind of capacity of like just going deep into sound. Like it's not even about like, I guess in the real world, there's all the things before you get into that moment in the session where you're like really in there and you're like, not that you feel like a troll, but you haven't seen the light of day for a while and you're just kind of, like there's that moment. And I feel like when we work in this kind of capacity, we just stay there at the bottom of the ocean for a while. And that's what's been kind of cool, is like, actually, I haven't been going up and down and up, like all the small chatter, I guess, or like, the chit chat, I mean, there will be chit chat and there will be tons of inanery and fun in our future. I know this. Yeah. But it's just so funny that I feel like we like all literally, like we talked about this on the Zoom call the other day, where I'm just like, I know I've just met you guys, but it's kind of like we just went right for like, so why are we alive, guys?
Yeah. You went like freshman year, 4 a.m, many. Yeah, let's answer the deep questions.
We just went right there, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm like really grateful that you guys can meet me there.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about, in some ways, I don't want to get I always ask this question of folks too in these sessions, but just like the being an artist in this moment and ways of making music, that kind of thing. I think for me and for there's been a like, wait a minute, our whole like share music with people in a room has been taken away, and the 4 of us weren't getting together in the room either, so all of that was taken away. And then there was also at one moment there was a reframing that was like, oh, but wait a minute, making music remotely, like we know how to track things. Like we know how, like there are some skills we have that we're using in this moment that we just didn't think about as much beforehand, but we used, but it's a totally different way of work. You know, it's like kind of both things, you know, like Austin and Martiza, like this, I mean, I guess these instruments are so new for you that a lot of things about this process must be really new, but this like sending sounds back and forth way of collaborating, which, you know, feels so this moment, but also so exciting, you know, is this a new way of making music for you all?
Definitely. Yeah, I'm used to playing in bands and being in spaces or like being in orchestras together and having those sort of dialogues and that sound world. That's the thing I'm missing is like the spatialization of everyone playing together and listening, right? Listening to someone in the process of making music, not sort of reflecting on their musicking that already happened.
Right.
That's a big change of pace.
And with Marita, with you and Austin, the sounds that you sent to Bora, were you making them together, or was one of you making them first? So you guys got to be kind of like started with an in the room version and then send that to Bora to respond to and send back.
Yeah, we did some stuff solo and some stuff forehand. Like, and I feel like just in our general practice, like they'll take some time in the studio, and we do a thing where we kind of like, I don't know, we create like these like little sonic bubbles in our office, and one person will just kind of sit back in the other office chair and like close their eyes and chill and like listen.
Yeah.
And we're like, man, that was cool, great job, you know.
It kind of being an audience where
like, we're
like
each other's audience.
That's it, then, right there, like whoa.
You get a little look back and a nod, like that was it. And then sometimes we're like, hey, do you want to jam tonight? And we set up a bunch of stuff here in the studio, and you know, four hands.
I love the four hands. I'm still kind of zoning on that because it's a wonderfully like classical reference of like piano four hands. But I love, like, I know, so just for anybody who doesn't know what we're picturing four hands, we're picturing like a square object or some
cigar box.
Nice, a cigar box. Keep me going. Cigar box with what?
Banana clips and conduction, like solder boards on the on the underneath. They're gorgeous. Look at this thing.
Those are really gorgeous.
What's her name?
This is the mini Plum.
Hi, Plum.
Or also the golden box. I don't know what to call her, but yeah,
amazing.
She's mini Plum, but she's the golden box. She's really
and so like tell me about all these knobs. And yeah, that's the one I remember. That one from that was Soci Box.
Hello. This is what's her name?
It's sort of like it's just got a spiky box. That's that's stuck.
Hedgehog.
Yeah, because it's very, you know.
Oh yeah.
You can see the nice thing about these instruments is not only four hands on the same instrument, but we can plug them into each other, and they actually can modulate like what the other instrument's doing. So she'll turn a knob on her box, and it affects an oscillator on one of the other ones. And so it's a different kind of improvisation and different kind of like response, because we're sitting next to each other like this, or really, really close as we're playing, but sometimes we won't look at each other for like, the whole 30 minutes. We're just using our ears and reflecting back and forth.
But also, I mean, we've lived together the entire pandemic, and we spend so much, literally 24/7 with each other, that like we won't look at each other for an entire 45-minute set, but there will be like several moments where things just lock in, and like there's just kind of some stillness and some nonverbal recognition that like, yes.
Yeah.
Just let this ride for a little bit.
I love it.
And then okay, it's time to move. Yeah.
And so is it like analog synth world? Like how much is it recreatable? Like I do some improvising with some friends, right? Jeff Snyder, who Bora knows, and a good friend of mine, Jank, we'll play together some. And Jeff has the analogs, all the things, you know, and we get to something, it's like, oh, that was awesome. And then you can't find it again, right? It's what's kind of so beautiful about it, but also maybe, you know, I don't know, depending on who you are, it can be frustrating about it, right? It's so fleeting how to recreate these moments. Like, is it that world, like where it's kind of like, it's capturing a moment?
We learn to record everything.
Yeah.
If it's good or not, the tape is always recording. And
I love it.
Do it back a few days later, and it's good. We're we are so new to these instruments, but as we get to know them, and it kind of feels like as they get to know us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that we can tease out things that might be similar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There are a lot of fleeting moments.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And we build these from like, I mean, from the PCB, we populate them and like we build all of our switches and knobs and everything. And so even though, you know, I'll spend almost 40 hours on a single instrument, I'll like plug a banana jack into, you know, something and I'm like, I really didn't think it was gonna do that. Why is it doing this? Like they're just so unpredictable. And so that's the thing that I think is like kind of cracked me open into this world is like I am now listening in a completely different way and I'm like learning to improvise and like really pay attention and it's also just turned me on to sound in a completely different way. Like I started just taking field recordings all the time and you know just like thinking about those. I always tell Austin I'm like a total texture freak now with music and sound. I just am like obsessed with it.
I love it.
So.
Wow. This is so good. So good. And so Bora, when this first sound got sent to you, there's so many things that you do. We already talked about you do. So what have you, at least in this set that we're gonna hear, are you using your voice? Are you using electronics as well? Are you using your viola? Are you using like what's your sound world?
Yeah.
Or is it definable? Is it talk aboutable?
Yeah. Totally. Well, I just want to respond to the fact that what they were just talking about of how ephemeral all their recordings are, and I think that's actually what's so special about this collaboration and this first interchange too, is actually knowing that these recordings are kind of one-time takes, you know, because their humidity or like the temperature of the room like can totally change all the responses that they're getting from these instruments. So, yeah, it's like knowing how if I'm like knowing that this can't be replicated necessarily exactly in performance, things like that. Like that's kind of why I think this collaboration in this studio type of remote way is so interesting because it's like it's not something we can necessarily make again in real life, but we'll go about it a totally different way, certainly. But I think what's cool about this is that it's like layering simultaneous realities and simultaneous spaces and places together. Like they're in Detroit and we're here in Princeton and it's going to go up in Brooklyn. And just this idea of like simultaneity is like, it's, or just this asynchronous and synchronous way of living is like, it's such a even more populated world in this kind of digital format. So I really love that we're honoring the fact that this is like a one-time take and responding to that particularly. So I really put my ear to it just for what it is and really put my arranging hat on. At first, so the instruments that got added to it, to a lot of to the track that we're presenting on Thursday, is a lot of voice, low microKORG synth, tiny little bells. Let's see, walkie-talkie feedback, Tibetan bowls, some water sounds. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then some weird shit.
All that stuff and then some weird. Love it. Yeah. But really I thought about it as arranging because like they like, and it's like when I think this is what we talked about a little bit in the collaborative workshop too, is like how to think about the distribution or density of sound, not and like how to you know, it's like contouring something, like how to highlight something so that something comes out here, or like how to juxtapose something that even texturally like rubs weird, or like just having. So what they sent me were all these beautiful like tactile electricity, like resonant bell sounds that I was like, whoa, what's happening there? Spectral signature is so rich there. And just like, and tuning into those sounds and finding a melody within the modalities of these spectral signatures. So the first few takes were actually just kind of more lyrical and choral. I was actually me finding, even if I was doing theremin voice, was me finding my tonal way into these sounds. And then from there,
being a sound designer and layering textural sounds, what things like either augmented things or went against things, or uh, yeah. And then from there, once the harmonic relationships were defined and once the textural relationships were defined, then from there it was just like zhuzhing things to make it seem
I was waiting for
contour.
Zhuzh. Bora, I was waiting for it. I've been waiting for 40 minutes.
Awesome.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
love
yeah.
you,
It's about how to zhuzh the contour into something like that, like how, when to voomp what, when to like lessen what, and yeah. So it really started from what they sent me, and just I was just tuning in very intensely to what they sent me and what could I add that could swim with it and make different relationships with it.
Awesome. I'm so excited to hear this 10 minutes. Also knowing that this is like, first track on a full length that will be coming soon to, press to the Princeton Record Exchange.
Yeah.
I'm so pumped. Well, cool. We're all gonna be pumped to hear that on Thursday and to be in the chat. And I know you guys will be in the chat too. But I have two questions that I've been asking of all the artists as well that I get to hang with. One kind of like big crazy moment question and one fun nostalgia question. Those are always the last two questions. So the heavy moment we're in question, we started to talk about like being an artist during the pandemic and what that's meant to your process, and how Martiza and Austin, you've discovered this whole new way of making sound, and the kind of positive side of that maybe. But just thinking about this year, this 14 months, I mean, like, craziness, right? As a human, but also as an artist, and what does it mean to make music when we're not in the room together anymore and not able to? I know for we were so much of a live group, or we feel like we're so much of a live group. What does it mean when that's kind of taken away? And then a couple months into thinking about that, then George Floyd was murdered, and it's like, what does it mean to be an artist in this time, and this Black Lives Matter conversation that has been happening for so long is now happening more deliberately in So's scene, and I think all of our scenes. It's a more deliberate look at what equity is, and then I feel like we can keep at the election, the intenseness of the, like, so many things this year has been like, just as far as being a human, it's like crazy moment. And I know for me, like, I just keep rethinking, like, what does it mean? Why what does it mean to be an artist? What am I doing? Like, what am I thinking about, and why am I thinking about it so much? And I feel like my answer has changed so much. But I guess, like, for this time, whether it's any part of that year, for you all as artists, have you rethunk in any way what it means to be an artist, or you know why we need artists in this moment, or has it kind of amplified things you've already felt about yourself as an artist and said, yes, this has been important to me, and this, I imagine there's like 8,000 ways to think about it, but surely, yeah, I wonder, I don't know who has thoughts about this, but for me, I've got to talk to so many people about their process, and I know for me, I'm continually rethinking it, as I'm sure you all are too. Alphabetical order.
Martiza, I'm calling on you.
Nice. Okay, good.
Wow. I guess being in this digital space, and I also have to say, I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm a full-time orchestra director at Detroit School of Arts, and it's
Amazing.
like this wonderful, beautiful, just creative space, and my students just like thrive in that space with each other, and being virtual this year, and going through struggles with COVID, with like my families and my students' families and my colleagues, um, and also, in the other hand, growing so much as an artist, and like really just, I feel like I've like finally found myself in this. One of the things that's like really gotten me through this year is like sharing that with my students, and teaching them like, you know, really there are no rules, and like let's like grow together as artists, whatever that looks like.
Mm.
So shout outs to DSA.
Yeah.
My babies.
That's awesome, Rita. I didn't know that about you. That's amazing. I want to hear more about that sometime. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. It just, that's, I guess that's kind of like my major takeaway looking back at this whole year. Like there's been a lot of really terrible shit that's happened. There's been a lot of beautiful stuff that's happened, and like I'm glad that we can kind of begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you know, and I'm like so looking forward to making music with my students again, and making music like out with friends. And
yeah, that really resonates with me. I don't teach in that way, young kids, but I do as a parent, I guess. Like I feel like strangely grateful for dinner every night, even when we're talking about something intense like the pandemic or equity or responsibility or like whatever, you know, and trying to distill these ideas for an 8-year-old feels like, man, maybe we should all be thinking like 8-year-olds a little bit more or whatever. Like I'm totally grateful for those moments of like trying to distill that. And I think I was gathering something like that from you. I imagine, like, you know, talking with students these days, that's also such a you're such a powerful figure in their lives. Like to think about what that means is really cool. Really, really cool. Bora, what do you think? Should we go across the screen? Should we get Austin into you? Is that the calling on people?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really solidified the importance of community, and kind of breaking down that barrier between the people in the audience and the people on stage, but really reflecting on why are we all here, sharing ourselves, whether it's our time as listeners or our creativity as performers. So in Detroit, the community that we really participate in has been like devastated by COVID. It's been really tragic to see friends, family members get impacted, whether it's economically, whether it's health, mental and physical. And so instead of kind of shutting down and getting really insular and saying, not the woe is me, but you know, we're here in our little tiny bubble, really reflecting on how can we use our art to connect people, whether it's virtual, like in this space, whether it's just sharing little bits here and there. And so that's what's really struck home, is trying to connect with the community and trying to keep that community energized throughout this period, because without that, without the music, without sharing the creativity, like then you would feel really insular and really kind of small within that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to, at the end of Sociate or at the Collaborative Workshop, I think we all said we're gonna have our party out in Detroit.
Yep.
You're invited too, Bora, as a special guest of the CW. I cannot wait. But I feel like there's so many magical communities that I know of in Detroit, and I'm excited to meet your community there, because I feel and I know that you guys are involved in so many cool things there. So we're headed your way. Not quite sure when. You're also, please come hang around the campfire with me and Bora in Princeton, because Bora is such a wonderful part of the community here. It's such a good hanger. Bora's always ready to hang. What have you? But we haven't connected so much over the. You've been in Hawaii for a while, and you're back. So what has your thinking about yourself as an artist in this time? I imagine it's so many things.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Austin, you touched on so many really wonderful points of like, you know, it's funny because I think when we all go through difficult times, there is that need to like, I don't know, you kind of get put your blinders on. You then first it's blinders, and then it's this, and then it's just like downhill from there.
Yeah.
I feel like it's you do this, and then you're just like, you don't just forget who you are or your relations to others, and like, and I feel like that's the natural thing I think people want to do, but I think all of this has taught us how much like it's counterintuitive, but it's like why we do it or what we do it for. Like it's the side to side thing. It's that like energetic gluten that holds us together as a society. Like why you'll do something in yoga class, but you won't do it by yourself, even though you never talk to those people next to you. You know, it's like you'll do it because you're part of something larger than yourself. And I think that's universal. Like that's what's so present in music. It's always been very aware to me of like we all are buying into this because we have the opportunity to make something greater than ourselves. And that even in the practice of like reminds us how to be in relation with one another and how to make work. Sometimes it's making worlds that we need. So I think about that too. Like I know that ritual is a part of what I do, apparently. So, or someone said it to me and I was like, oh, I didn't really realize that. But and I started to realize like, is it me creating at first it was me creating a world I needed. And then sometimes it's in a ritual space, it's actually like, it's a community space that we all need. It's just creating a space. And I feel like it doesn't need to be any more charged than that, or, you know, and but it is where we all restore and where, you know, we all get something out of it and there's something feeding us creatively, communally, artistically. And yeah, I feel like being deprived of that for so long, it's really amazing when I feel those tingles again, and that I can feel tingles sometimes remotely, or that it's like really interesting to be like, wait, do we still get tingles in COVID world? And it's really interesting. Because like in performance, I would feel it at the end when audiences exchanged, you know, like I would always feel it. There was always some energetic exchange, and I knew that was the whole reason why I came, was usually some bodily tingle. And I remember when it all started, I was like, do we get those anymore? Do we not get them? How can we get them?
That so resonates with me, Bora. I feel like I've had a lot of great experiences seeing music and I mean, you've talked about some of these collaborative workshop experiences or seeing work that people are like, I've had a lot of amazing experiences, but I got tingles the other day and it was like, oh shit, I haven't gotten tingles in a long time. Like it was like the first in 13 months, you know what I mean? Or it was like, and that was straight, it was like a different thing and it was exciting. But it was just like, it was also just like, wow, I've been missing that for a long time. It's sorry to jump in like that, but it so resonates what you're saying. I'm getting tingles now talking about getting tingles.
And I know it's so funny because I'm always like trying to find some academic way to say tingles, but I'm just like, but it's just tingles, people.
It is. That's what's great about it. We all know what you're talking about, right? Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thanks for sharing that, Bora. How about we go the opposite way with this last lightning round question? But this is more I mean, it actually plays off of what we were just talking about, like a little bit. Like if we think about the pre-times when we were playing music for people, you know, I always say in this moment that, so, you know, as we tour, you know, we'll be in a van, we'll drive someplace, whatever it is, you know, maybe it's like some long drive where we're slogging, you know, and the thing that's getting us through that is like these kind of shared stories of what happened the night before on stage, and that leads to like what happened the year before, and then that inevitably leads to like, you know, the time the flower pot fell off of the, you know, 20-foot riser and cracked on it, or like whatever, like crazy, you know, terrible story we have. It always leads to some terrible story, you know. Oh, remember the time where you know, forgot this thing, and, you know, all that stuff. But we have these, you know, these like stories, these shared stories, you know, and some of them are funny, but, you know, some of them are beautiful and like the, you know, just the tingles or whatever that is, you know. So do you all, when you think of, I know you don't have a trio story yet because we'll have the trio story, you know, when the LP comes out, but like when you think about the pre-times, Bora, is there a concert experience that, you know, really sticks with you, or that you could share, that is either a fun one, silly one, amazing experience you had playing music with someone? You know, what's that for you?
I'll share a positive one.
Yeah.
I think
we could all use that, you know.
I was great. Like, I don't think we need to do like the nightmarish one. Who needs to like relive that? No.
Let's go with positivity right now.
Positivity.
Safe bet.
I remember it was early on in my time in New York City, and it was 2006, and I got involved in this show that I heard about that was happening at the bottom of a pool. And I was like, I need to know these people. Who are these people making making dance shenanigans and awesome weird things in a pool?
Was this McCarran Pool? Is this in Brooklyn?
Yeah, it's in Brooklyn. It's this 55,000 square foot, 3 Olympic-sized pool that had been an unofficial skate park for decades. And this woman single-handedly got open. And I was like, I need to talk to this woman. Awesome. And I basically convinced her to let me run the Sonic Squad in the next iteration of Agora. And so I gathered all my friends together. Like, I pretty much was like, all right, I'm just like, who wants to sing on bicycles? I was like, who wants to do it? I literally just like corralled all my friends together who were wild and crazy enough to, like, you know, throw 10-gallon jugs around and like bring Tibetan bowls and sing in Doppler effect in a swimming pool, and gather bike bells. And I remember one performance, it was, so one thing that's I think beautiful about performance when you work at it like such a well-oiled machine for such a long time, and I think the three of us have gotten there maybe in the last 72 hours, or I have at least. I'm kind of, yeah, I'm a little like that. So what I'm saying is that I feel like the entrainment happens is like you live and you're breathing and, you know, like you're living and breathing and dreaming the same thing at a certain point. And there comes a moment, I remember in tech, where it's like, oh my God, is this show even gonna work? But that's tech. But when you have 60 people in a pool that has done this for 3 weeks in a row now, I remember it was like practically closing night, and it was so well oiled that it was like, it was buoyant. There was nothing about the production that needed pushing. It was so massive, but we were already kinetically like entrained. And I remember this one moment in the show happens where everyone pretends that they're in their own private place, and they actually undress and go to bed. It's just like this moment where you're actually very in a public place, but it's a very private moment. And so the space completely changes. The marimba starts to play, and I sing and play violin, and I go across the pool, and this is just the duet that me and the marimbist have. And in this one production, I just heard this rustling, and I didn't know what had happened, but there was this beautiful blue velvet stingray that had like 5 people underneath it running. It was like the best tagging of the show anyone could have ever done. It was artful. It was really well crafted, beautifully done. It was like this beautiful giant puppet stingray like voomped across the pool and then went out the front door, and I just saw it as I played, and I just kept going, and I was like, what was that? And it was, I remember we talked about it later, being like, should we be offended, should we be honored? This is amazing, you know. And I was like, I think that's amazing.
I think that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. And it was I remember on a night where I was like, I'm never gonna have another performance night like this, where it was like everything literally felt weightless, like, and that was part of it. And I just remember being like, cool, when you make the space for that and it's creatively inspiring to other people, like, they just chime in.
Oh, that's so cool. Yay. Thanks for the positive one. I feel like when Joe tells these stories, we need to find our positive ones more. We have all our like wreckage, you know.
But you've survived those. That's good things.
They've survived. Happy wreckage.
Yeah.
Austin and Martiza, do you have things that come to mind?
Yeah. I guess what I was just thinking of was less beautiful and more like fun chaos, I guess. I'm recalling my senior recital, so probably a lot of people watching this can reflect the emotions and, you know, energy and also relief after their undergraduate senior recital's done. But I kind of wanted to go out with a bang and mark the space a little more sonically than just, you know, with the classical rep or even sort of non-canonical stuff I did. So when I was an undergraduate, I was in a band called Curse of the Black Tongue, and Curse was a psychobilly band, and we had an upright bass player, and we mixed surf rock, thrash metal, and rockabilly together.
And you called it what? Psychobilly?
Yeah, psychobilly.
Love it.
And it might be a little too much if they were local celebrities, but still in our tiny little town.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, we would play out all the time, and so it was kind of like a different persona than the person who was playing Xenakis or playing like craft timpani stuff.
Yeah.
So after this fairly successful recital, I kind of hid the amps and my drum set on stage, like backlined it, but covered it up to not ruin the surprise. Although it's kind of obvious when you see an upright bass under a tarp what it is. And so instead of maybe like a traditional encore doing an etude, something like that, we came out on stage and played a small set in this concert hall that the last 4 years had been my entire world, 18 hours a day working in this space and playing everything from classical music to jazz, and really trying to like inscribe it a little differently. And I didn't know how well it was going to go over, like, because you have your professors there who not the most serious people, but they're taking this
There's some expectations of what that moment's supposed to be.
Yeah. So the first half, I think, met those expectations, and the second half blew those expectations up a little bit. But just feeling like the audience, and breaking that boundary between, what an audience is expected to do. So people were up in their seats hooting and hollering, and it was fun. It brought some chaos to this moment that's otherwise kind of regimented, or sort of like the expectations.
Love it. And so does this psychobilly band, do you sell, like, are there tapes? Are there CDs? What are there? Are there vinyl?
The tape space, but yeah, there are definitely CDs out there. T-shirts, merchandise.
Curse for everybody out there who Curse of the what?
The Black Tongue.
All right. Love it. We're finding this, Austin.
Looking for this single. Yes.
Yeah, I'm ready.
There are definitely embarrassing YouTube videos out there.
Oh yeah, it's it's so funny. I think of like I'm a lot older than you, Austin. I feel like I didn't exist on YouTube when that happened for me. You know what I mean? Like, but this is good. I can just check YouTube. I'm going there. After Martiza tells me her story, I'm there.
I feel so lame. I'm like I've been racking my brain trying to think of this whole time. I guess like.
Well, Bora started with like a blue stingray. There was like a high. The bar started high.
Your blue stingray story sounds like a dream.
Yeah,
like it sounds like an actual dream. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know, I gotta say it. So last September, I guess, we played I was directing an ensemble that played like contemporary music to silent film. Like,
oh, cool.
Old, silent film. And so we had a couple weeks to basically throw this hour-long program together. We were playing outside of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra's like orchestra hall, and it was a tiny little ensemble, and we were playing this one piece that was particularly challenging. And my role in the ensemble was typically conductor, but because we had to like narrow it down to like a 3-household system because of COVID restrictions, I played violin, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, whatever, it's great, it's good. Practice my ass off. We get there, we're playing, things are good, and the composer, who is also in charge of running like video, hits the play button, and he gives us the go. Austin's my drummer, right? So he starts playing, I start playing, and we're just like ripping. And I'm looking at this gigantic screen that is just black.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing. But none of the rest of the ensemble has their back facing the screen, and they have no idea that nothing is happening there.
Oh, that's a hard feeling.
Masks. And so I can't say like from the top. It was just lost. So we were just ripping, just tearing it all the way through, and we got to the very end and we stopped playing, and the film was still going, and then the film stops. The composer just gets on, he's like, you get the idea. Next. And that was it.
Oh, come on. That composer, that was not right. That was the most wrong part of that story. That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah.
It was was like nothing else anyone could do. You know, there's like communication is dead.
Yeah.
We were just like hauling ass through this thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You know, it's crazy.
How long was the film? How long was the film?
It was like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Shorter than that.
It was a short. Got it.
Yeah.
No, but that's cool. I was thinking like, you know, it's like a 30-minute film.
No.
Like, you know, like you watch the whole thing a minute off. You.
It was perfect because we played it really well. We played it probably the best.
It was
the
Yeah.
best performance we've ever done. We just like totally killed it, but there was nothing happening on the screen, and I just remember like a single bead of sweat.
Yeah.
Like, down my temple. Like, well, that's that, I guess.
That happened. Oh, Martiza, I have a do I conduct or do I play drums madness to share sometime. We have we not right now. There'll be another time that we swap some stories here.
You're like, if my nose could conduct,
yeah,
the things that I could do.
Yeah, it would be so. Yeah, exactly.
A big old head thing.
I don't have those skills. No. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for the wonderful stories. Thank you for sharing the way this trio has come together. I'm beyond excited that this is a debut performance and this is the first thing you all have made. Are you going by your names so far? We don't have a band name. Curse of the Hill, the Rockabilly, Psycho Clown. Is it? Wait, there's something in there.
Taken.
Okay, that was taken.
Sadly.
Oh. Well, I hope you all can join on, I don't know, on YouTube. Can you guys join in the chat on Thursday night? Be there.
Yeah. We gotta say that it's Marita's birthday on the 17th.
Yes.
So we're having family and friends over for the first time in.
Oh.
And so we're gonna have a watch party.
Oh my goodness.
We're really excited for, and we're gonna get everyone on their devices. So
yes,
we'll be in the chat.
Oh, I love that so much. Yay, it's your birthday, Martiza. That's great. That hopefully will be a really fun way to celebrate your birthday. I cannot wait to be in the same room as you all, but being in the same chat is like a small step forward to like, we're experiencing this music together and I'm grateful for that. And yay. Well, it's so nice to talk to you all for an hour. The best.
Nice to talk to you.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Absolutely, Bora. I'll see you soon.
Yes.
Awesome, Martiza. I'll see you soon too.
Yeah.
Some way, somehow. All right.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.